Finally got to interview Royce Veater, from self-proclaimed couch potato and 50 pounds overweight in his 50s. Now 10 years later, he's run marathons all over the world, 22 of them I think, plus ultra marathons, stuff like that. How did he make that change? How did he change the mindset, get the motivation, do all those things? He absolutely changed his life, and he unpacks it all in this interview. He tells you exactly how to do the same thing. Let's dive right in. Great, Royce, thank you so much for coming.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Like I mentioned, I've been looking forward to this interview for some time, and I'm glad we're finally both in the same state, so we could make it work out.
Of course.
So Royce is such an inspirational example because you were how old were you when you started running?
Well, let's just say it was 11 years ago.
11 years ago.
I was in my mid-50s, let's put it that way.
He was younger than he is now,
Yeah.
older than I am, and you're an IT professional.
I am, yes. I've been in IT probably about 35 years, I guess, in 3 different industries. So it's been really a lot of fun.
So those are 2 different worlds, and that's what makes it such a way cool story. So I just wanted to hear that, like, start from the beginning and take us through what that looks like your story of how you went from IT. Well, you're still IT professional, obviously,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but your old practices about health and then the new ones that you adopted.
Right. Okay. Well, we probably won't go too far back, but I was very active, like most people, in high school. Mm-hmm. In athletics, and then life came along and got busy, and things got crazy with different things, and before I know it, it's 20 years later, and I'm married to a nurse, and so she's very conscious about wanting to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And back
Wonderful lady from the Philippines.
Yeah, she is. Ruthie's amazing. You have met her, and you know what she's like.
She's fun.
She's a dynamo. And so anyway, she has me go to the doctor every year for my annual checkup. And so I've been doing that pretty religiously. And But one year when I went to the doctor, he said, Royce, you're not getting any younger. And in fact, there's some things that are going on here with you.
Okay.
And in fact, he said, you're packing on some weight now. Your blood pressure's getting a little high. Your cholesterol numbers aren't looking very good. And he said, you should make some changes in your lifestyle and other things. And that was kind of a shock. It was kind of like a brick that hit me in the face. And it was.
So a question I get all the time is, John, how do I lower my cholesterol or all those other numbers that don't mean anything to us, but doctors talk about?
They do. They definitely talk about it. And so for me, that was the wake up call. My doctor. And he said, we can put you on medication, which we don't like to do. We'd like to be a little bit more conservative and see what you can do.
Right. Well, medication doesn't fix any problems.
No, it doesn't. It just, in fact, it can cause other things. In fact, my wife always tells me, your liver processing all these medicines and medication is not really that good for it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, I wonder what I could do. He said, well, one of the best things you can do is make these lifestyle changes. Mm-hmm. And I figured, well, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. And so luckily where I was working at the time, they had a wellness program at work.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought, hey, maybe I'll just sign up for that and see what happens. And so I did sign up, and I was pretty motivated because of what my doctor told me, and I've got a family history as well. Got cancer, we've got heart disease, you name it, we seem to have it, and so the genes are there probably as well. But there's all the other things that can contribute to that. Sure. That if I didn't do something, I knew I was kind of headed down a path that I didn't want to go to. So I was extremely motivated. So it was a 4-month program at work. I met with a counselor, and the great thing about it is they did some pre-testing. You go in and you do a little pre-test. In fact, I actually had to get my doctor's permission to be able to do the program before they would accept me into the program. They said, hey, you're pretty high risk. We need to have your doctor say it's okay for us to have you do this program.
Yeah, on the personal training side of things, we see it all the time called a PAR-Q form that we'll have people fill out. And if they fill out certain risk factors,
that's exactly what it was.
It's like, just liability-wise, you got to talk to your doctor.
So doctor said, hey, you should do this. And so I got my form filled out, went in, did all my tests and everything. And basically everything was reconfirmed again where I was. And so we sat down and they, said, what are the goals? What are the things you want to try to accomplish? And I pretty much said, well, this is what my doctor is telling me that I need to do. So, put me on a program that will help me with those things.
Okay.
So they pretty much just work with me on an individual basis. We set some goals. The great thing about it is you work with a counselor. Once a week, you meet with them, you sit down, you review your goals, your progress. They actually took me into the gym and showed me how to use the different machines and different things like that. So that was really, really nice. You get this personal attention, but then that was only for an hour a week. And then you had to, start working on doing the things that they're telling you. Right. Here's my little program. I want you to do this, this, and this. And so, so it was good because you had that accountability factor built in. You had to go back, and you knew you were going to go back and report to your counselor and kind of explain. And they're really good about wanting to educate you on, it's not just going through the motions, it's understanding why you're doing what you're doing to help. And the nice thing about it wasn't just related to just fitness and things like that, losing weight, but it was also education about why we're doing what you're doing and lifestyle changes. I mean, they work with you on nutrition, on your diet, and different things like that. And that was a big change for me too, because I pretty much just ate whatever I wanted to. And
it'd be an understatement to say getting fit from unfit is a major lifestyle change.
It is. And it doesn't happen overnight.
What do you do in the gym? Like, you got to figure out what are the mental triggers that you got to switch to
exactly
the at-home life.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And so, so I felt I was making a little bit of progress, and then going back once a week talking with my counselor. Some of the other areas, they also helped with stress reduction, stress management, and different things like that. And that's kind of fascinating. That got me into yoga. I just love yoga. I like to call it power yoga, because it's kind of a manly thing too, and it's great because
people don't realize how tough yoga can be.
Oh, it is amazing.
Yoga session.
It's more than just
legs are burning.
Yeah, it's more than just the stretching and other things like that. But
absolutely.
But for a runner, ultimately, it's great. And interestingly enough, during my program, I really didn't do a lot of running. I was mostly on the elliptical and then doing strength training and that. And so after, I was making good progress. Each week I seemed to be losing a couple of pounds, not a lot, but over the course of 12 weeks, I was able to lose close to 50 pounds. And I was just really...
12 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, 4 months. Is that 12 weeks?
4 months. Okay, yeah.
So 16 weeks.
Yeah,
16 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah. So close to that. And my numbers started coming down. I mean, they'd take...
So you were 50 pounds overweight.
Yeah, I was borderline obese according to the charts. My BMI, my weight, I was pre, whatever they call that. And so...
yeah, pre-metabolic syndrome.
Yeah, I even have some pictures you can look at if you want to.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
But, yeah.
So here's a question for you. Walk me through the mindset you had. So you mentioned you had this kind of mortality motivation in a sense, where your doctor's like, hey, things are going south real quick.
Right, yeah.
But a lot of people get that from their doctors.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
they aren't able to make that change. What was it in your mindset that took that? Because you said for you it was extremely motivating. For some people, that's just depressing, and depressing is not motivating.
Yeah.
What was that mindset?
Well, I like to look at the bigger picture of things as well, and I know that you just cannot make big leaps and jumps along the way. For me, just small little progress, incremental progress was really good. But I had to see the end. I kind of wanted to see the vision of where I was going.
Okay.
And so for me, my motivation was to make sure I was still going to be alive, to support my wife and my kids and my grandkids, because my older brother passed away when he was just a little over 50, and cancer, and then my younger sister passed away as well. And so that's the other thing. In addition to that, cancer screening and different things like that was really important to me as well. But those risk factors all kind of come together, right? And so I really looked at it from that perspective, that I wanted to do this not only for myself, but for my wife and kids and grandkids. And
so you were thinking of your family.
Yeah, that was kind of the external focus, the motivator to say, yeah, I want to spend good time with them, and I can't do that if I'm, bedridden.
That's such a huge key that we miss so often in our mindset. It's like, how many years did you go knowing like, okay, you maybe had lower energy, or you didn't have the fitness or the mobility or whatever it was.
Oh, I was a couch potato. You can tell. As my wife, she knows I TV and couch and and eating my food.
But once you were really thinking about how does this impact my wife?
Yeah.
How does this impact my grandkids? That kind of made a difference.
It really did, and I think that was kind of the changing. The other thing too, a little bit of a motivation, as I was taking a class at the university, and so I decided to use my experience in this class as part of one of the assignments. And the assignment was, it was called the Change Project. You had to do a change project. Could be about anything, but I decided to do it about myself and my before and my after and the journey through this whole process. And
when did you start? Was that like as you were doing it?
Yeah, so it was, I started the program a little bit before, but at the same time I was taking this class, and I thought, hey, might as well use
so you knew you were changing.
Yeah.
This wasn't like, maybe I'll try this and hope it works.
Right.
Like you were locked in when you started. Wow.
So I had those things going for me, I guess. I wanted to get a good grade. Even at my age, I thought, there's something still you just want to do your best. So, in fact, I had the paper. I'll show it to you. So
I would love that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That's really neat. Another thing you mentioned is, so all these risk factors, the predispositions, basically, I guess from what you're saying, you could say your genes are as bad as they come.
Pretty close, yeah.
So
indeed,
that's another one where usually that can be like a demotivating factor, like, oh, it's not possible for me because my mom died of this and my dad had this and all my brothers have this, and so sometimes we get into the mindset like we can't change because it's genetically pre-programmed.
Right.
And you saw it differently. It was like,
I said, well,
because of that, I have to doubly, especially do this. How would you teach someone to make that mindset switch?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I think the motivation really has to come from within. You've got to find whatever it is that drives you. And of course you can have someone work with you, which I think is great. For me, and I think it's the right kind of person. I mean, my wife is wonderful, and she's a nurse, and she's as healthy as a horse.
She is, yeah.
And she's amazing. And but when you hear it from your doctor, and then you hear it from
Wow.
somebody else, that kind of puts a new perspective on
It does
as well. So,
okay, that surprised me. That blows me away, because I just thinking about you, I'm like, wow, your wife is so active, like, and she's an incredible runner now too.
yeah.
And so it's like, that's I guess a lucky situation, you could say, that you have this kind of passion, this active pastime that you share with your wife. But what I tell people is, usually your spouse is not your best motivator, because they love you no matter what.
That's right. Well,
But even though she was that kind of person, it still wasn't the right.
Well, Ruthie came along on the running part of things even after I did. So I got started. So after the program finished in 4 months, and things looked good, went back to the doctor. He said, "Hey, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it." So I knew that I needed something to keep me going. And I said, I can't just stay in the gym, or I can't just stay on the elliptical or whatever, the stationary bike. I said, we've got beautiful areas. And so I started running. I thought, this would be kind of fun. And my counselor actually was on the university track team. And so I said, maybe I'll start running. And so I got off the couch, as it were, and finished the program and started.
Literally.
And I really just walked around the block, a few times. And then I thought, this isn't going to kill me. I guess I'll just keep going. And so I ran a mile, and then I ran another mile. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I just really enjoyed it. And there's a freedom, it feels like, when your body can do some things that you haven't been able to do for a long time, and you're able to do that. And
so you're focusing on what you now could do, instead of the fact that you still weren't running more than a mile or two.
Right, exactly. Okay. Yeah. And so it was just something to keep me motivated. And, you see people out, they call it jogging, but runners like to call it running, no matter how slow you are.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, and so
it's
I
a
thought,
technical term.
I'll do a little 5K. I think I can do a 5K. That's 3.1 miles. And so my birthday was coming up about 3 months, and so I decided to find a little program to do a 5K training program, and so I started training for the 5K, and it was good. In fact, I invited my wife and my daughter and my and her boyfriend, who became her husband later on. But I said, well, if they can run with me, then maybe that's something we can do together as a little family or whatever. And so we just did a little 5K. It was in my hometown. Got to run through my neighborhood and see the sights and everything, which is kind of fun. But I was really surprised, because I actually beat everybody. And my daughter was this, they didn't do any training, and so they had to do kind of the run-walk method, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And I think they walked maybe the last mile too, but that was okay too. But it was fun. We could celebrate my birthday, and so I said, well, now that I've done a 5K, maybe I can do a 10K. That's just twice as much, but it's going from 3.1 miles to 6.2 miles is a big step. And so I got a training program online for that one, and did that. I thought, hey, that's pretty good. And so I thought maybe I can do a half marathon. That's kind of the next step to 13.1 miles, and so I trained for that one and found a good program. And my counselor that worked with me had a half marathon that she would do quite often in her hometown, and so decided to do that one. It's in Boise, Idaho. It's the race to Roby Creek is what they call it. And you pretty much start...
Roby Creek, is that how they say it in Idaho?
I don't know.
Is that a Utah
creek? Or is it a creek? Maybe so. Anyway, you run from the state capitol up this trail all the way up through this canyon, then you end up here at Roby Creek. And you don't get a medal, you get a pair of socks.
Oh, they're into practicality.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
They said, hey, this is something different. Everybody gets a pair of socks. So anyway, that was my first half marathon. And so since that time, I decided, hey, if I can do a half marathon, maybe I can train to do a full marathon.
Whoa.
And so I thought, yeah, this is going to take some real dedication, some training, and there were a few people in our neighborhood that were runners, and so I talked to them a little bit. And so I finished my program in 2008, ran my half marathon in 2009. And
that
then,
program is that training program you got online.
Right.
Is that okay?
And then I decided, well, I need about 5-6 months to train for the marathon, and so that would take it to 2010. And so I trained for the Utah Valley Marathon. That was my first marathon. And my wife, who wasn't really into running much at that time, she said, make sure your life insurance policy is all up to date because you're going to kill yourself out there.
So she thought you were crazy.
She really did. She thought, you are the crazy person.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, it really was. And so we started up above Deer Creek Reservoir, a little town called Wallsburg. And that was amazing because the day of the race was pouring rain. It was just raining like crazy. And I don't think I prepared myself very well for the rain, but there's a 6-hour cutoff. I mean, you had to finish the marathon by 6 hours. And luckily, towards the middle part of the race, they're running down Provo Canyon. The rain finally stopped, but I was just soaking wet and shivering. And I hit about mile 20, and I hit the wall basically where you don't have anything left. I mean, you used up all of your reserves and everything, and you're just dragging yourself.
All the glycogen's gone.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. And I read about it, but experienced it the first time.
That was your first time experiencing
it? That was my first time. I thought, this is crazy. So I said, well, I've come 20 miles. I better finish. So I pretty much just kind of walked. And my wife and daughter and our oldest son were at mile 23. And so I knew that they were there waiting to kind of run me in, so to speak. And so I said, I'm going to make it. I'll make it to mile 23 and then see if they can drag me across the finish line. And they did. And I came in 5 hours and 59 minutes and 40 seconds.
Wow.
And I got my medal.
Your first marathon.
Yeah. So
5:59.
5:59. Wow.
Yeah. And so now, how many marathons have you run?
So since then, I've run 22 marathons.
Oh my gosh,
In
wow.
fact, here's some of them right here.
So, and you've qualified for marathons like the New York Marathon, the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, so I never thought that I'd be able to run in these big races, especially.
So those are tough to qualify for.
They are, yeah. So Boston is kind of that's the holy grail of all marathons. It's the oldest one in the United States, and everyone wants to go to Boston at least one time. But my 6-hour marathon, compared to what I had to qualify for at my age, it just seemed like an eternity away. And so I thought, well, I'll just take it a step at a time and see what I can do. And sure enough, in 7 years later, I qualified for the Boston Marathon for 2018. And my wife had already kind of gotten into running, and she actually ended up qualifying before I did. And she ran Boston twice. And I just went there as a spectator, to watch her run. Yeah. So that kind of motivated me a little bit.
Okay, sure.
And then
that's the way your spouse is going to be your motivation.
Yeah, she was. And so in 2017, we both qualified on the same race, which was amazing. And so I went from a 6-hour marathon. 7 years later, I ran a 3-hour and 47-minute and change marathon, which was actually a little faster than what I needed to be for my qualifying time. And so both Ruthie and I went to Boston last year and ran the Boston Marathon, and there's the medal. It's just amazing. It was the worst weather, though, in 30 years, but I didn't care.
Boston often.
We're going to do this.
Wow.
And
well, that's incredible. And you've got a couple more this year. You're going to Germany, right?
We're going to the Berlin Marathon in the fall, and then on our way back from Germany, we'll stop in Chicago and run the Chicago Marathon as well. And our goal is to run the 6 world major marathons. So Boston is one, and then the New York Marathon, and then this year is Chicago and Berlin, and then next year or the year after, we hope to get London and Tokyo. And
oh my gosh.
maybe then we'll decide.
That's incredible. What I love about you and your story is just you really found what it is for you to turn like fitness into something you love.
Yeah.
Like it's a game, you know. It's something you do with your family, with your wife.
Yeah.
And when you tap into that, it's just like it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
It's like
and
it pulls you towards your goals.
It's amazing because there's this community of support as well, and we're all just trying to help one another out. And you know, those that are coming just into running, and you give advice, and everybody's different. Everybody has different goals and different things. So it's great to hear stories. I mean, there's some really, really amazing stories that people have, much more so than my little story that I had. But it's just amazing.
No small story to most of us. It's super inspiring. So, and it's just such a dramatic transformation from, you know, as self-proclaimed couch potato IT guy to still IT guy. You didn't give up your profession. Your life didn't end, but but somehow now you're like qualifying for and running these crazy marathons all around the world. So how do you what would you say to the people who are in that spot where, you know, it's like they know maybe their numbers aren't looking good, or they don't feel good, and they want to get fitter, but they got family, they've got a job, you know, they've got their life.
For sure.
How do they make that transition?
It's really about priorities too. I mean, you have to look at where you're spending your time, and you've got to try to balance that. But at some point, you've got to prioritize some things as well. And if you can do things together, that makes all the difference in the world. Like Ruthie and I, we like to run together. In fact, we're running a half marathon on Saturday in Provo, and then 2 weeks later, we're running the Ogden Marathon. We're actually part of a pacing team, or on 2 pacing teams, where we're kind of helping other runners along the course. So we'll pace at a certain pace, and they run along with us. We give them encouragement and different things like that to kind of help them meet their goals, because we were there once. We were running with the Pacers.
Exactly what that's
so
like.
We know what it's like. And so, just find something that you enjoy and that you can do. And, you know, our vacations now are becoming vacation races. And so, I mean, we're going on vacation, but we're racing at the same time. So we're kind of doing something together.
Time off the workout program.
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible. So before I ask my final question, I want you to talk a little bit more about your coaching experience. That it was like 4 months, right, at the very beginning. Yeah. Where it was just like very simple, like a once a week type consultation. Right. What role did that play for you in helping you on this journey?
I think it made a major difference because number one, I knew I would be meeting with my counselor, my coach, once a week or a few days away, and so I needed to get started on my goals that I'd set. We'd set tiny little weekly goals. You know, we had bigger goals along the way, but we just had little things that we were working on, and so knowing that I'd come back in there. And my counselor was great. I mean, she didn't beat up on me if I didn't. You know, if I had a cookie or something or whatever, you know. Just
one foot in front of the other.
And it was really, just some good encouragement along the way. And I feel it made a major difference. In fact, even now, it's really helpful to talk with people that have studied these things. It's a science. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a science. Our bodies are really amazing, and if we can learn to use them, and they can be a wonderful blessing to us.
And your strategy has to continually develop because your body changes.
Yes,
it's not one static plan
right
that you got during that first 4 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, very true.
Wow.
Very true. In fact, the nice thing about this program is every 2 years you can go back and kind of repeat the program, and you'll typically have a different counselor, and you kind of go through the same thing. And so, interesting enough, I'm actually doing the program right now.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible.
So I'll finish up in the end of May, but even then, I just kind of felt like I needed to have a little bit of a tune-up, and as it were, and
always,
the research is always changing. I've learned so much more than I did 7 years ago. And that's why I like what you do, Johnny. It's just amazing to hear the kinds of things that you're doing. And I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, my last question is, what would you tell yourself, and you made it on this journey, but even so, looking back 11 years, right? What would you tell yourself, the couch potato version? Looking back now, 11 years later, what would you say? What advice and coaching would you give?
To myself back then? Well, I'm just really happy that I listened both to myself and the others around me. I can be a little bit stubborn, on occasion.
Yeah.
But, I look at myself and think, where would I be today if I hadn't made that change 11 years ago? And I thought, I'd probably have 1 foot in the grave or whatever. I mean, I just can't imagine what it would be like. And so I'm just very grateful that the stars aligned, and I took action and did something and have stayed with it. I mean, it's a journey. It really is. It's a lifelong journey, and you do what you can do, and it's great. Yeah.
Incredible. So inspiring.
Thank you.
Guys, this is the poster child. Like, this is an incredible, just absolutely incredible example and journey. I hope this inspired you. I hope this serves you. And, really dissect what Royce talked about in this interview. Lock in your mindset. Think about who needs you on your A game, who needs you to be fit, who needs you to be healthy and vibrant. Also get a coach. I mean, the humility is incredible, because this guy's run marathons everywhere, all over the world, literally. And he's still right back in that coaching program that he started in. And, how often do we forget, to get a coach? Nobody becomes incredible at anything without a coach. Right now you're taking piano lessons.
I am.
Sorry, guys. You're never too old. Can we just say that you're never too old to start something?
And here's a piano.
The most dedicated piano student, from what I hear. Just like with your training, because how you do anything is often how you do everything.
Yeah.
Guys, hope this served you. Get yourself a coach. Get yourself a plan, and start today. Don't be the one 11 years down the road saying, I wish.
Yeah.
Say, wow, I'm glad I did that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Aside from my soul.